Welcome to True Crime Pulse. Today we dive into the story of a young lady, Lucy Stevens, who grew up surrounded by wealth and high expectations from her family. As the only daughter of a real estate tycoon, her childhood was filled with elite private schools, horseback riding lessons, and fancy social events. From a young age, she was taught to always present a perfect image, a lesson that stayed with her throughout her life. Though her life seemed perfect from the outside, Lucy's home was anything but. Her father, Theodore, was strict and demanding, while her mother, Evelyn, was always critical, leaving little space for real emotional warmth. Lucy turned to her studies for comfort, excelling in school and discovering a deep love for art history. Lucy's hard work and intelligence got her accepted into an Ivy League school, where she excelled in her classes, but found it difficult to fit in socially. Balancing the expectations of her family with her desire to discover who she was led to rocky relationships and a feeling of being lost. Despite her polished appearance, Lucy struggled with self-doubt and an ongoing need for approval. Lucy's relationships with men were often passionate but brief. She tended to be attracted to men who offered excitement and attention rather than the stability she often said she was looking for. Around this time, she met Finn Calloway. Finn was a fine man. His calm confidence and sincere personality appealed to her, and she believed he might be the key to the kind of life she had always been told she should desire. As their relationship deepened, Lucy convinced herself that Finn could solve all her inner conflicts, helping her become the person she was always meant to be. However, as the wedding day drew near, her old patterns resurfaced. She started feeling uncertain and restless. The image she had carefully built began to crumble, exposing the complex and conflicted person she truly was underneath. Finn Calloway's background was vastly different from Lucy's life of privilege. He was raised by a small-town doctor and a high school English teacher in a tight-knit community that valued hard work, honesty, and loyalty over material wealth. Even as a child, Finn showed a strong interest in science and a natural curiosity about the world around him. His parents supported his curiosity, encouraging him to explore and ask questions. Summer breaks were filled with camping trips and visits to science museums, fueling Finn's passion for environmental conservation. Despite his academic achievements, Finn stayed humble and was well-liked by his peers. Finn was the type of person who would tutor classmates who were struggling or volunteer at the local animal shelter, always without seeking recognition. His genuine kindness and integrity became defining traits throughout his life. His commitment to his studies secured him a scholarship to a prestigious university where he pursued a degree in environmental science. During his time at university, Finn met his cousin Asher Calloway for the first time. Although Asher came from the wealthier side of the family and they had different backgrounds, the two quickly developed a strong bond. Finn often acted as a calming influence on Asher, who was more impulsive by nature. After graduation, Finn's dedication to conservation led him to join a non-profit organization focused on protecting endangered species. His work took him to remote areas around the globe, where he saw firsthand both the stunning beauty of nature and the harmful effects of human activity on delicate ecosystems. These experiences only deepened his commitment to making a positive impact. At a fundraising event for his organization, Finn met Lucy Stevens for the first time. He was immediately impressed by her beauty and intelligence, but it was her subtle vulnerability that truly won him over. Finn recognized in Lucy someone who could benefit from the love and stability he felt he could offer. As their relationship grew stronger, Finn felt he had found his ideal partner, someone who shared his values and stimulated him intellectually. He imagined a future full of shared adventures and mutual goals. Proposing to Lucy felt like a natural step, and Finn eagerly began planning a life together with the woman he loved. Unbeknownst to Finn, the trust he valued so deeply was about to be severely tested, challenging his beliefs and the core of his identity. Asher Calloway, the black sheep of the family, embraced his role with a mix of defiance and acceptance. Raised on the affluent side of the Calloway family, Asher had every material advantage but lacked the emotional stability he needed. Asher's father, a high-powered corporate lawyer, was often absent, while his mother found escape in social events and prescription medications. With little guidance at home, Asher developed a rebellious streak, using his charm and good looks to manipulate others and engage in increasingly risky behavior. Despite his challenging upbringing, Asher was exceptionally intelligent and charismatic, traits that drew people to him. Asher excelled academically when he put in the effort, but more frequently he led his peers into trouble. It was during one of these escapades that he first connected with his cousin Finn, who was visiting for the summer. Finn's steady presence and sincere concern for Asher left a lasting impression on him. For the first time, Asher felt genuinely seen and valued for who he was, beyond his family name or his charm. This bond with Finn became a crucial source of stability in Asher's otherwise chaotic life. As they grew older, however, their paths diverged sharply, with Asher's choices leading him down a very different road from Finn's. While Finn dedicated himself to environmental science, Asher struggled to find his direction, switching between college majors without settling on a clear path. He eventually took a job at a startup tech company, primarily for the lifestyle it offered rather than a genuine interest in the work. His personal life was equally unsettled and turbulent. A series of failed relationships left Asher cynical about love, though he continued to seek validation through fleeting conquests. He earned a reputation as a charming rogue, often leaving broken hearts behind. However, when Finn introduced Asher to Lucy, something changed for Asher. Lucy struck Asher as a woman who matched his wit and complexity, and who understood the challenges of coming from a prominent family. What began as light-hearted flirting quickly escalated into a powerful attraction that Asher knew he should resist, but struggled to control. As the wedding day neared, Asher felt torn between his loyalty to Finn and his deep feelings for Lucy. The internal struggle brought out Asher's worst qualities, leading to erratic behavior and a growing sense of desperation that would later contribute to the unfolding tragedy. Finn and Lucy's engagement was the highlight of the social season. Finn proposed on a moonlit beach during a conservation trip in Costa Rica, giving Lucy an ethically sourced diamond ring that represented both his love for her and his commitment to his values. Lucy, caught up in the romance and the promise of a stable future, accepted Finn's proposal without a second thought. Their engagement quickly became the talk of their social circles. The Stevens family was delighted that their daughter had chosen a suitable partner, even if they considered Finn's commitment to non-profit work somewhat old-fashioned. The Callaways embraced Lucy warmly, impressed by her sophistication and evident commitment to Finn. However, as the wedding planning progressed, the first signs of trouble emerged. He justified these concessions as expressions of love, hoping to give Lucy the wedding of her dreams. Lucy began to harbor resentment, interpreting Finn's reluctance as a lack of excitement about their marriage. As the wedding day approached, the stress of planning began to affect their relationship. Lucy became increasingly irritable, snapping at Finn over minor details like the color of table linens or the choice of wines. To maintain peace, Finn withdrew from his work, spending long hours at the office and leaving most of the wedding decisions to Lucy. During this difficult period, Asher became more involved in their lives. Ever the charmer, he was quick with a joke to ease tension and offered a supportive ear, becoming a confidant to both Finn and Lucy. Finn, grateful for Asher's support, remained oblivious to the lingering glances between his cousin and Lucy, or how their hands would linger in subtle touches. Meanwhile, Lucy began to eagerly anticipate Asher's visits, savoring the excitement and unpredictability he brought into her life, which was becoming more controlled and monotonous as the wedding approached. Lucy tried to convince herself that her growing attraction to Asher was just pre-wedding jitters, a natural reaction to the stress of planning such an important event. As the wedding day drew closer, the tension between Finn and Lucy escalated. A heated argument over the seating arrangements ended with Lucy in tears and Finn storming out of their apartment, leaving their relationship strained more than ever. Asher arrived to comfort Lucy, bringing an expensive bottle of champagne and offering a sympathetic ear. As Lucy opened up about her fears and doubts, something changed between them. The line between comfort and desire became blurred, and in a moment of vulnerability, they shared a kiss. This single act of betrayal would set off a chain of events that would lead to inevitable tragedy. The next morning, consumed with guilt yet unable to dismiss the intense passion she felt, Lucy made a choice that would change everything. She rationalized that what Finn didn't know wouldn't harm him, and that she could indulge in one final thrill before settling into her marriage. Unbeknownst to her, the fragile facade of her life was on the verge of collapsing, with consequences far beyond her control. The affair between Lucy Stevens and Asher Callaway ignited like a spark in dry tinder, swiftly overwhelming all sense of reason and caution. What began as subtle glances and lingering touches quickly escalated into secret meetings and passionate encounters. Their first clandestine rendezvous took place under the pretense of wedding planning, allowing them to hide in plain sight as their forbidden connection deepened. Lucy had asked Asher to help her pick out a surprise gift for Finn, fully aware that her true intentions were anything but innocent. They met at an upscale hotel bar, a place known for its discretion and unspoken rules. Sitting close, their heads leaned over a catalog of watches, but the tension between them was undeniable. The air crackled with electricity, as though both knew they had already crossed a line that could not be undone. Asher's hand grazed Lucy's, and in that instant, the facade crumbled. Without speaking, they slipped away to a room Asher had discreetly reserved, anticipating this very moment. The guilt hit Lucy afterward, as she lay in bed beside an unsuspecting Finn, the weight of her betrayal sinking in, yet unable to erase the passion that had overtaken her. Lucy convinced herself that it was a one-time mistake, a fleeting moment of weakness that would never happen again. However, the allure of the forbidden proved too powerful to resist. Soon she and Asher devised an intricate system of coded messages and false alibis to cover their tracks, allowing their dangerous affair to continue in secret. A text about flower arrangements was their code for a meeting at the hotel, while a call about suit fittings signaled a secret rendezvous at Asher's apartment. They became adept at slipping away unnoticed, mastering the art of stealing moments together, feeding the affair that was spiraling further out of control. A hurried tryst in Lucy's office, a fervent encounter in Asher's car parked in a hidden spot, the constant risk of being discovered only heightened the thrill. Close calls left them breathless, their fear and excitement blending into an intoxicating mix that drove their secret affair deeper. At a family dinner, Finn almost caught them when Asher and Lucy sneaked away to the coat closet for a passionate embrace. On another occasion, a friend of Lucy's saw them holding hands in a cafe, prompting them to fabricate a story about planning a surprise party for Finn. As the wedding day approached, the intensity of their affair only grew stronger, driven by the mounting pressure and their ever-deepening desire. Lucy started to compare Finn to Asher, consistently finding her fiancé lacking. Asher's spontaneity contrasted sharply with Finn's predictability, and his danger seemed to offer a stark contrast to Finn's safety. This growing dissatisfaction made Lucy question every aspect of her relationship and the future she had envisioned. Asher, initially driven by the thrill of conquest, found himself falling unexpectedly deeper. What began as another victory in his string of conquests evolved into something more profound. We started to envision a future with Lucy, one where they could be together openly and without pretense. Asher conveniently ignored the fact that this future would come at the cost of his cousin's happiness. In their quieter moments, both Lucy and Asher were haunted by guilt. They were acutely aware of the pain their actions would inflict if discovered in the lives they would shatter. Yet, in the throes of passion, these worries faded, overshadowed by the intensity of their desire. As the weeks went by, the line between fantasy and reality grew increasingly blurred. They made promises they knew they couldn't fulfill and spoke of a love that was doomed from the outset. Meanwhile, Lucy and Finn's wedding date approached like an imminent disaster neither knew how to avert. Finn, known for his keen intuition and ability to read people and situations, had relied on this skill in his conservation work. It had helped him navigate intricate negotiations in delicate ecosystems, but now it seemed unable to detect the unraveling of his personal life. Yet when it came to the betrayal unfolding right before him, Finn was unusually blind. So the early signs were subtle and easily dismissed. Lucy's sudden fixation on her phone, her habit of abruptly ending calls when Finn walked in, her rising irritability, which she attributed to wedding stress, and the unfamiliar scent of cologne she claimed was from a new co-worker at the gallery. Finn's suspicions were finally stirred by Asher's behavior. Normally eager to be involved, Asher began to make excuses to skip family gatherings. When he did attend, he displayed a nervous energy and a fleeting look of guilt whenever his eyes met Lucy's. Finn attempted to dismiss his growing doubts, convincing himself he was being paranoid. Yet the nagging feeling persisted and intensified. He started to observe more closely, noticing how Lucy and Asher seemed to communicate with unspoken understanding and shared inside jokes that left him out. Unable to confront his fears openly, Finn began an amateur investigation. He found himself engaging in behaviors he never imagined, checking Lucy's phone while she was in the shower, scrutinizing credit card statements for suspicious charges, and even driving by Asher's apartment at odd hours to see if Lucy's car was parked outside. Each discovery felt like a knife twisting in Finn's gut. A receipt for 2 glasses of champagne at a hotel bar on a night Lucy had said she was working late. A text message from Asher reading "Missing you" quickly deleted from Lucy's phone. A lipstick smudge on Asher's collar at a family dinner, matching the shade Lucy wore, added to Finn's mounting suspicion. As the wedding day approached, Finn was caught in a spiral of doubt and denial, desperately clinging to the hope of Lucy's love and the future they had envisioned together. The mounting evidence became increasingly difficult to ignore, and the weight of his doubts began to crush Finn. His internal struggles started to show in his behavior. He grew distant and distracted, frequently losing track during conversations and seeming detached from those around him. Finn's work, once his passion, now felt hollow against the backdrop of his turmoil. Friends and family attributed his change in demeanor to pre-wedding jitters, oblivious to the underlying crisis. 2 weeks before the wedding, Finn's suspicions reached a breaking point. Finn decided to confront Lucy, seeking an innocent explanation for the troubling behavior he had observed. In their shared apartment, while Lucy was busy with last-minute wedding preparations, he initiated a serious conversation. With his voice trembling and barely concealing his emotional turmoil, he directly questioned her about her relationship with Asher. Lucy maintained composure, feigning innocence and brushing off Finn's concerns. However, as Finn laid out his evident secretive phone calls, unexplained absences, and guilty glances, he noticed subtle signs of her discomfort. Despite her denials, Finn continued, citing specific incidents that had raised his suspicions, unwilling to let the matter rest. Lucy's responses grew more elaborate and defensive, insisting that Finn was overreacting because of wedding stress. She reaffirmed her love for him and questioned why she would risk their relationship. As the confrontation escalated, Lucy proposed calling Asher to confirm her version of events, trying to deflect suspicion and bolster her claims. Finn watched Lucy's nervousness as she dialed and put the call on speaker. Asher's voice filled the room, smoothly validating Lucy's claims and providing plausible alibis for each of Finn's concerns. The seamless, united front of Lucy and Asher left Finn feeling emotionally exhausted and defeated. The coordinated denial from Lucy and Asher only intensified Finn's fears and suspicions. By the end of the conversation, Lucy tried to reconcile, attributing Finn's concerns to wedding-related stress. She urged him to redirect his focus to their upcoming nuptials, hoping to alleviate the mounting tension and doubt. Finn, unable to find the words to express his feelings, simply nodded in response. As he gazed into Lucy's eyes, he recognized that everything had shifted. The trust that once underpinned their relationship was now irreparably broken, causing the future he had envisioned to unravel before him. The morning of the wedding arrived bright and clear, ideal for a celebration of love. However, within the opulent bridal suite of the Rosewood Hills estate, the mood was far from joyful. Lucy sat at the ornate vanity, surrounded by her bridesmaids who busied themselves with her hair and makeup, while an air of tension hung heavily in the room. Her reflection in the mirror appeared pale and strained, despite the expertly applied cosmetics. The weight of her deception felt suffocating, making it difficult to breathe in her intricately beaded gown. Meanwhile, in a smaller room reserved for the groom's party, Finn stood still as his best man adjusted his bow tie, his mind clouded by the turmoil he couldn't escape. Finn's face remained a mask of calm, concealing the inner turmoil he felt. The decision he had made in the early hours of the morning was both terrifying and unavoidable. Asher arrived late, slipping into the room with an apologetic smile that failed to reach his eyes. Finn watched his cousin in the mirror, observing the nervous energy emanating from him. When their eyes met briefly, Asher quickly looked away, unable to sustain Finn's gaze. As the hours passed and the ceremony approached, the tension in both rooms continued to escalate. Lucy struggled to hold back tears, causing her carefully applied mascara to streak. Finn's hands trembled as he fastened his grandmother's watch onto his wrist, a family heirloom he had once envisioned passing down to his and Lucy's future children. Outside, guests arrived, their excited chatter and laughter contrasting sharply with the tension within. The string quartet began to play, their gentle melodies a stark contrast to the emotional chaos behind closed doors. As the wedding planner's voice called from outside, signaling it was time to take their places, three hearts raced with a mix of dread and anticipation. The moment of truth had arrived. The grand ballroom of Rosewood Hills had been transformed into a floral paradise. Garlands of white roses and delicate baby's breath adorned every surface, their sweet fragrance permeating the air. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow over the assembled guests and adding a serene beauty to the scene. As the music swelled, All eyes turned to the back of the room. Finn stood at the altar, his expression unreadable, as he watched the bridal party walk down the aisle. Beside him, Asher, shifting uncomfortably, glanced nervously between Finn and the entrance, his unease palpable. The tension between them simmered beneath the surface, hidden from the unsuspecting guests. As the bridal march began, Lucy appeared in the doorway, and a collective gasp rippled through the crowd. She was stunning, her gown a masterpiece of lace and silk, flowing elegantly around her as she moved down the aisle. Her face, however, told a different story. Beneath the veil, her eyes betrayed the weight of the secrets she carried, and each step toward Finn felt heavier than the last. Finn, standing at the altar, watched her approach, his heart pounding as the gravity of the moment sank in. As Lucy glided down the aisle on her father's arm, her eyes locked with Finn's. In that fleeting moment, a silent communication passed between them, an unspoken acknowledgement of the betrayal that had fractured their relationship. Lucy's smile faltered as she saw the pain in Finn's gaze, a pain she had tried to ignore but could no longer deny. For Finn, the sight of her brought a mixture of love, sorrow, and anger that twisted his insides. Though their faces remained composed for the guests, the space between them was filled with the weight of everything left unsaid. Finn caught the fear and guilt in Lucy's eyes while she noticed a distant coldness in his that chilled her to the bone. The ceremony started, but the officiant's words seemed to drift over them without sinking in. Lucy responded out of habit, her voice so soft it was almost a whisper. Finn's voice was steady and clear, yet devoid of the warmth and love expected on a day like this. When it came time for their vows, the tension in the room became unmistakable. Guests fidgeted, sensing the uneasy atmosphere radiating from the couple, though no one could quite understand the depth of the rift between them. Asher stood stiffly, his usual confident demeanor replaced with a pale, uneasy expression, as though he could feel the storm brewing. The officiant's voice cut through the silence. "Finn, you may now recite your vows to Lucy." Finn inhaled deeply, his gaze sweeping over the guests before finally landing on Lucy, the weight of unspoken words heavy in the air. When Finn spoke, his voice was calm and steady, reaching every corner of the now silent room. "Lucy, I stand here today not to recite vows of love and fidelity, but to speak a truth that can no longer be ignored." A wave of confusion spread through the guests, with whispers and shifting glances filling the space as Finn's unexpected words hung in the air. Lucy's eyes widened in horror as she began to grasp the gravity of the situation. For weeks, Finn continued, his voice gaining strength as he let his pain and anger surface. "I've suspected that the woman I thought I knew, the woman I was ready to spend my life with, has been living a lie." His words, fueled by deep hurt, resonated through the room, intensifying the tension and disbelief among the guests. And not just any lie, but one that strikes at the core of trust, and family. Gasps and whispers rippled through the crowd as Finn's eyes turned to Asher, who had gone ashen. "Lucy, you've been having an affair with my cousin, the man I chose to stand by me as my best man." The revelation hit like Lucy stood motionless, her bouquet slipping from her grasp and falling softly to the floor. Asher took a step back, instinctively trying to distance himself from the weight of Finn's accusations. "I have proof," Finn said, his voice faltering slightly. "Emails, text messages, hotel receipts. While we were planning our future, the two of you were sneaking around, betraying not only me but everyone here who came to celebrate our love." The room exploded into chaos. Lucy's mother let out a cry of distress while her father stood, his face flushed with anger. Finn's parents sat in stunned silence, their eyes shifting nervously between their son and their nephew. In the wake of Finn's revelation, Lucy struggled to find her voice amid the turmoil. She pleaded with Finn, trying to explain and insist that he had misunderstood the situation. Yet Finn, now at his breaking point, was no longer willing to listen to her explanations. Finn turned to the stunned guests and apologized for the deceit that had led to their gathering. He announced the cancellation of the wedding, his words reverberating through the shocked silence of the venue. With his declaration made, he stepped down from the altar and began his solitary walk back down the aisle. As Finn passed Asher, he paused briefly. His voice, heavy with hurt and betrayal, conveyed his deep disappointment, highlighting the brotherly bond he had once believed they shared. The guests looked on in stunned silence as Finn made his way towards the exit. Just as Finn neared the doors, a commotion near the altar drew everyone's attention. All eyes shifted back to where Lucy and Asher stood as a new drama began to unfold at the heart of the celebration. Amid the murmurs and confused exclamations, Asher's hand slipped to the inside of his jacket. Time seemed to slow as Asher pulled out a small, gleaming handgun. The room erupted in gasps and shouts, and Lucy was the first to react, her eyes widening in horror. She cried out Asher's name, her fear evident as tears streaked her mascara-stained face. Her scream pierced through the commotion, drawing the guests' eyes to Asher, who was now raising the gun with a trembling hand. Finn, startled by Lucy's cry, spun around, his face a mixture of shock and disbelief as he took in the sight of his armed cousin. Panic surged through the venue. Guests scattered in every direction, some ducking behind chairs while others made a frantic dash for the exits. The string quartet dropped their instruments with a clatter as they joined the fleeing crowd. Amid the chaos, Finn remained unexpectedly composed. He spoke to Asher with a calm but firm voice, trying to reason with him and urging him to lower the weapon. Despite Finn's efforts, Asher seemed lost in his rage, his eyes darting wildly as he shouted about shattered dreams and stolen happiness. Lucy, her gown now in disarray, carefully moved closer to Asher. Her voice trembled as she pleaded with him, trying to reason that violence was not the answer. For a fleeting moment, it seemed as if her words might penetrate his resolve, but Asher's determination quickly solidified once more. The tension peaked as Asher declared that there was no turning back. In a swift motion, he tightened his grip on the trigger. Lucy rushed forward, trying to disarm him, while Finn sprinted towards them, desperately trying to protect her. The room was filled with a heart-stopping silence as the gunshot rang out, leaving everyone in stunned confusion about who, if anyone, had been struck. The echo of the shot hung in the air, creating a chilling pause before the ballroom exploded back into chaos. Lucy fell to the floor, her white gown rapidly becoming stained with blood. Finn, momentarily putting aside his anger, rushed to her side. He held her gently, his face a mask of shock and despair as he grappled with the severity of the situation. Asher stood motionless, the gun falling from his hand and hitting the floor with a hollow clang. His face was a mixture of shock and disbelief, unable to comprehend the gravity of what he had done. Meanwhile, Finn worked frantically to stop the blood from Lucy's chest wound. His voice choked with emotion as he begged her to hold on and stay awake. Finn's feelings of betrayal had dissolved into a desperate urgency to save Lucy. She fought to stay conscious, her gaze locking onto Finn's with a painful effort. She tried to apologize, her voice weak and strained, but a coughing fit interrupted her, sending a trickle of blood to her lips. The severity of Lucy's condition was evident as she struggled to convey her regret, leaving a heavy silence filled with unspoken words and anxiety about her fate. Amidst the chaos, guests with medical training rushed to assist while others frantically called for emergency help. Asher stood motionless, offering no resistance as Finn's father and another guest restrained him. The wait for the ambulance seemed endless. Finn clung to Lucy, his voice filled with desperation as he whispered words of reassurance and forgiveness, striving to keep her alert. With each passing minute, Lucy's responses grew fainter, her breathing more labored. When the paramedics finally arrived, their efforts proved futile. Lucy Stevens was pronounced dead at the scene, her life tragically ending in the very place where she was meant to begin a new chapter. As the police arrived and took control of the scene, the reality of the tragedy fully sank in. What was meant to be a day of joy and celebration had devolved into a nightmare, destined to haunt everyone present for years to come. In the months that followed, the lives of all involved were irreversibly altered by the events at Rosewood Hills. Asher Calloway was charged with second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, his promising future overshadowed by a moment of jealous rage. Finn Calloway, overwhelmed by grief and guilt, abandoned his career and sought refuge in the remote wilderness he had once dedicated himself to protecting. And thank you for staying glued to this channel. Like, comment, share your thoughts on the story. Till next time when we bring you more crime stories, stay safe and vigilant. True Crime Pulse, thank you.